Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Wow, we are at 1:33. This is January the 29th of 2020, and the earnings call for quarter four of 2019 has just about ended. The fourth quarter, correct. So we are just getting some news at the last moment here, and we're going to kick off with the number one story, which of course is the earnings call, the final quarter of 2019. And we've got some interesting tidbits that Elon and company have mentioned during the call. Casey, what have you got for us?
Certainly. So let's start with some of the questions since they're still fresh in my mind. The very last question asked by the institutional investors was, I felt a throwaway about the 18650 cans. Elon stopped short of saying that it's the same chemistry in the 2170s and the 18650s. He admitted that they've changed the chemistry numerous times. And the numbers guy, I'm sorry, drawing a blank all of a sudden. He said that the 18650 line is mature, so there's no reason to introduce any uncertainty. The investors' argument was that they could use those on the Tesla Energy, but Tesla Energy can also use 2170s. So I felt it was a throwaway question. Not in a good way, but I felt that they wasted time with something that could have been more substantial.
It's really been addressed previously as well.
Like almost every quarter.
Yeah.
Somebody had asked him about insurance on the Tesla network and the full self-drive, and they said that they will probably have a solution for what to do with Tesla insurance and when you're on the rideshare. It's not finalized yet because that platform is not yet finalized. There was another really decent question. It's drawn a blank, but we'll touch on it again later. But let's look at their update presentation. I don't want to call it a letter anymore because it used to be just like a 2-pager and a bunch of figures, and now it's beautifully done. It was beautifully done last time as well, but this was a little newer. So they have almost they pretty much have $1 billion flowing through of capex, cash flow. And that's incredible considering some of the expenses they had and the fact that they're rolling up 2 new cars. I did skip something really cool. The Model Y has already started its ramp in Fremont. So
production has begun.
Yes, and we should expect to see that by the end of Q1. Probably a slow ramp, probably right around Fremont, so we can get the engineers kind of tuning it up before they start super serial production. They showed a profit. Even on GAAP, they showed a profit, which is good. And that's something they haven't done in a little while. The Model Y range has been increased for the dual motor, has been increased from 280 miles to 315 miles, which was another thing that they said while they were talking about the 18650s, is that the Model S and Model X actually have more range than they have listed on the website. I don't know if they're actually going to update it. He said we haven't got around to updating it, but he didn't say that they're going to update it, so I don't know. The Model Y production ramp actually started this month, and they had record deliveries of 112,095 vehicles in quarter four. And they also had record storage deployment of 530 megawatt hours, and solar grew 26%, which is really cool. So 2019 was a good year for Tesla. A lot of stuff turned around for them despite having a lot on their plate.
Absolutely. Yeah. Another point that came from the meeting was they are on track to produce for next year, or this year, I guess, 2020, 500,000 vehicles.
Yes, 500,000
is what they are saying, and they also indicated they may overachieve in that number based on the Model Y's uptake.
Yep.
So the thought is that Fremont on its own will be able to produce 400,000 Model 3s and Ys combined. Shanghai is on track for 150,000 units in a year. And they may, of course, they're starting the Model Y project in Shanghai. So the Shanghai may produce in the later part of the year both 3s and Ys.
Yep.
But
And then
again,
speaking of Fremont, Elon mentioned that they are now producing the same amount of cars that NUI produced at its peak in 2006. So that same building has now been matched and is about to be surpassed.
right, right. So great numbers. Obviously, as we heard previous to this, they did achieve their year-end numbers, which was 365 plus thousand, and the low end of their, the low end of their published numbers were 360,000. So they beat the low end just by a little bit, but nothing but good news in this earnings call. I didn't hear anything bad except for Casey. You heard one thing bad, and of course, it's out of Tesla's control. And what was that?
Coronavirus.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not laughing at the people. I'm just laughing that it's out of their control, and it's kind of, it stinks.
Yeah, bad situation with the virus spreading, and of course, a number of deaths related to it.
Yes.
And China is getting more and more under a lockdown with allowing people to move around. So again, if you've been watching the news lately, this has been ramping up. Even some other countries have started to receive cases. They know they exist. They're trying to keep track of it. Both in Canada and the United States have cases. So we're just all kind of holding our breath and watching this unfold. Hopefully they get this, locked down somewhat and limit the spread of the disease. But
they called it an ongoing situation because they don't know. Their factory is kind of right in the middle of all of it. So they don't know how long it's going to be shut down. They don't know how many of their employees are going to be infected. They don't know. Like, literally, they are just playing it by ear right now because the government's trying to stop this from becoming a much larger disaster than it already is.
Right. Also, Elon in the earnings call reiterated that for Model Y sales, of course, the performance model and the all-wheel drive model will be the first to leave, the first to be sold, and the rear-wheel drive will be after that. So again, it's the most expensive models at the top of the chain, and then they move down as time permits. No surprise there. It's happened with all the rollouts to this point. So that's just the way that they operate, to collect as much cash as they can off the beginning.
Yeah, so. And the closest they've come to tweaking that formula was they said they would do it differently with CyberTruck, and then they didn't. And then with the Model 3, the only real difference was instead of the dual motor long range, they did the rear motor all-wheel drive, not all-wheel drive, the rear motor long-wheel drive.
Right.
Rear motor long range.
It's a tongue twister.
And then that car's essentially gone now anyway. So
exactly.
They also warned us that they will build more cars than they sell this year, just because they're going to be trying to balance out Shanghai and Fremont, and I don't think that they're going to be rolling any cars out of Berlin this year. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Shanghai was done in 10 months. Model Y was done in 10 months from prototype to production model. So
it's the Germans that are going to be the problem in that equation. The actual regulations getting the factory done. Getting everyone in line is not going to be like China. I would say that we'd stick by their guidance. It's not going to be as quick.
Yeah,
it would be shocking if it was. But here's the really nice thing to know. With Tesla moving to the stance of more of a under-promise, over-deliver, man, there's a lot of things when it comes to development of the cars and getting them to production that could change over time. A great formula to be in that people aren't waiting and then having to wait longer. It's always better to be surprised by a few months and say, hey, your vehicle's now ready, or it will become available in the next month or so, and gain yourself some time. So that is a big plus. And hopefully with all their production, all their cars continuing, that will be the way that it is handled.
Yep, and then this isn't part of the call, but we saw this week that that Gigafactory New York. That's another thing. They changed the nomenclature for gigafactories. It's Gigafactory region rather than Gigafactory number. So what used to be
Although
called
you did notice that it's only Gigafactory region in the U.S. because
Huh?
it's Giga New York, it's Giga Nevada, but when
Right.
they move, it's Giga Berlin. That's a
It's
city.
a city, yeah.
And he didn't mention Shanghai, but I'm sure it's Giga Shanghai.
It is Giga
So
Shanghai. He said that elsewhere.
so you've got that difference in the
Yes.
nomenclature as well.
Yeah. So ours is, like you said, it might be state versus city, which is interesting.
You know
So
why? State incentives. That's why.
maybe, maybe. So Gigafactory New York is outputting a significant amount of the solar roofs, and they've started also again to put out significant amounts of the Tesla Supercharger V3. So we should expect to see them rolling out in short order, which was cool. Another item that was brought up was that somebody said, Elon, you promised us end of the year. He said, I did not say that. I said I would like to. And so apparently they're pretty much done with the software, and now they're getting into validation and making sure that it's ready to roll out to the beta testers and then roll out to the rest of us, because this isn't some software you want to get wrong because of what it does.
Yeah, you wouldn't want a rollback in regulation based on the response to some bugs or some problems with it, for sure.
Yeah, Europe's already on their tail. Senator Markey is just blazing. I don't know what he's blazing. I'd like to get him in my car and take him for a ride so he can see that there's nothing to be afraid of.
He
Or so
still
he can.
hasn't responded, huh?
He has not responded. Well, right now he's a little busy. He's in the middle of a court case. Yes. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
he said to expect a couple more months before we see anything on. Well, not anything, but before we see the what was promised, the feature complete on the consumer side. I did notice that my car updated today, and it spent a full 20 minutes on updating the Autopilot components. And I don't want to say that it's better. It's different. If I'm moving at any sort of speed and the lane widens, like from an on-ramp, if I'm moving at speed, it doesn't try and dive off of it. It kind of hugs the line a little bit. It does move over just a tad, but it doesn't keep going. But if I'm stopped, it ends up going sideways, like it's trying to get off the road.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
trick.
yeah. So since you're moving at like 3 miles an hour, I just turned off and centered it, and turned it back on, and then it started going the right way. Yeah,
All part of the on-the-fly testing.
it is.
Yeah.
It totally is. And the so we talked about the range. So the Model Y is going to be class leader for fuel efficiency, and they did mention that they turned on the premium internet connectivity and in-app purchases for updates to the car. So that was another source of revenue for them.
Exactly. No, things look really bright on the Tesla future. Like
Yeah.
they're definitely over the hump, and now it looks like they're dialed in to start making some serious profits moving forward. Once the Model Y is released, like that's it. The hounds have been released. It's going to be a whole different story going forward, if things behave as normally as they have been for the past 3 quarters. There's going to be a big change in Tesla's financial books. They're just going to start racking in extra profit and putting it in the bank. It's going to be quite a ride on the stock market, possibly tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So keep your eyes on that. There's
Did we
lots
mention
of good news. Although Wall Street's kind of fickle, they're kind of
they
weird.
are?
A lot of good news comes out. Sometimes the price goes down, but I gotta believe there's going to be some sort of bump.
So there was they closed at 580, and right before the show, Mark and I looked, and it was at 690 aftermarket was the peak before it went down to, what was it, 650, 640?
650, yeah.
Mm.
So
Cool.
watch what it is tomorrow, but there should be a sizable bump for tomorrow morning's open at least.
Yes, not 690, but
No.
it was 630, 650. It was almost $100. That was really cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
On to some other stories. Cold weather testing was spotted for Model Y, and we know why that is, because they're going to be actually starting to deliver them. Yes. So kind of cool. It was spotted. 2 of them were actually spotted in Minnesota, and then another one was spotted in my neck of the woods, downtown Toronto, for some reason. So this one had crossed the border, and here's a shot that was taken of it on the streets of Toronto. Hopefully, I'm hoping that that's because this car is going to stay here because the 2 weeks there's the auto show in downtown Toronto. And I'm hoping they're going to have a Model Y on display, which would be cool to see. So we'll see if that is the case, and certainly we'll update everybody on the forums and on the social media if that does happen. By the way, if you're watching this program and you have not subscribed to us, what are you waiting for? Today's the day to do it. Press that subscribe button, ring the bell to get notifications, and please give us a like, a thumbs up, and that helps us get in front of others throughout the multimedia universe. It would be really appreciated if you could do so. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at The Tesla Life, and on Facebook, The Tesla Life #1. And that's where we post daily, and you can see all the stories that we're talking about as the week progresses.
Certainly. And then we saw 2 more Model Ys out supercharging, and then everybody was arguing over the definition of the word off-road, because one had a lot of dust and salt and grime on the side. And so some folks were saying that was off-road light. Other people were saying it's in Colorado. They have a lot of roads that are graded and packed and just not asphalted or concreted. So it might have just been a road.
Right.
But either way, one was dirty, one was not so dirty.
Another story that was new this week was a referral program has begun for the Tesla Solar Roof. So now there's a $250 referral for both the referee and the referrer that have submitted their name. So each party will get $250 cash for the referral. So nice little addition if you're looking at getting solar, and that begins immediately. So you can start using that and giving out your referral code to others. Now, I believe in order to have a solar roof referral code, you need to have a solar roof. Is that correct, Casey?
It was in the past. It was not in the past. And then in currently, if you have just a solar roof, you can give referrals to the car. And my app was prompting me to give out my code for solar roofs. Let me swipe over and see if that is still the case.
Okay.
Yes.
And why he does that, we'll just talk about a bit of a legal battle that Tesla has won, I guess partially, in the state of Michigan. Go ahead, Casey. What you find?
Yes. So I don't have solar from Tesla, and they are offering me to give out the solar code. So there you go.
All right. So you can now be able to do that. So Michigan, of course, a state that did not allow direct sales within the borders, did not allow service of the vehicles within the state. In fact, anyone that was purchasing a Tesla had to go to an adjoining state and take a delivery in that other state and then get the ownership switched to Michigan plates after the fact.
Yeah.
So Tesla, of course, has been battling with Michigan about this since the dawn of time, and they have won a bit of a battle. Michigan has now agreed to allow Tesla to set up service centers in Michigan. The galleries that they have in place are still just galleries, but apparently now you can take delivery in Michigan. So part of it is still in play that you can't order from an actual Tesla computer in a gallery, but the staff on hand can direct you to your phone and tell you how to fill out the form on your device to order it, and it can be delivered to Michigan. And now some new service centers will most likely be set up in Michigan so the service can happen within the state. So
If
Go ahead.
if I'm not mistaken, you still actually get your car from another state, but Tesla handles it now instead of you having to do it yourself.
Correct. You don't have to go to that other state, right? They
Right. So
can.
you'll get it with a Ohio plate or something
Yep.
else. Okay.
Exactly.
Mm.
And then again, the ownership has to be changed to Michigan, just like previously.
They want the
But
tax money,
they want their tax money.
even though they're doing
Exactly.
nothing to earn it.
Yeah. At least there's a small victory. Now you don't have to
Yes.
travel to Cleveland or Toledo to get your car serviced. They'll be able to start building some service bays around Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor and other places that make sense.
So will you be able to service direct, or is it going to be Texas style, where you have to call Tesla and then Tesla calls the service center and then they figure it out and you're not allowed to talk directly to them? I
I
was
don't know
unclear.
about that yet. They
Okay.
just indicated that service would be able to happen within the state going forward.
Yeah, the important part to a customer is that you're not having to drive 4, 5, 6 hours to go get your car serviced.
Yeah.
Whether you got to play the phone game or not, well, whether Tesla's got to play the phone game with itself or not doesn't matter to you as a customer.
Although it wasn't too bad for people that were just south of Detroit, because really that drive to Toledo is not all, it's about 45 minutes or 50 minutes. So not too bad. But hey, anything closer is better. And I'm sure people that are in central or northern Detroit are going to be happy that they can get service closer.
Yes.
Next, Casey's got a FUD shoot down that happened. Of course, the FUD is the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that people like to spread to force their agenda. What happened, Casey?
So this was incredible to me because the piece of equipment that I say piece of equipment, this thing is huge. It's bigger than a bus. That was at the center of this controversy was the folks that make money from Tesla stock not doing well were spreading a lie, saying that Tesla didn't have a stamping press in Shanghai, and that they were just shipping over parts and assembling them like they do in Tilsburg in England. And the stamping press was right in the front and center of almost every video that Tesla showed us of Gigafactory Shanghai. And so in response to this, Tesla didn't actually acknowledge that that's what's going on. They just kind of released a video of their stamping press in Shanghai stamping out Model 3 parts for, I think the video was almost a minute long. It was doing the stamping, and then just like in Fremont, the robots were reaching in on one side and pushing in on the other side, and it was really cool to see in action. And you could tell it was Model 3 parts because that's all they make there. So
Makes sense. Yeah. But even if they didn't have a stamping press, let's just pretend they didn't. What's the big deal? What's the big deal if they can ship the parts? Like if the parts get there and they get assembled in the car, what's the big deal? What's the big, oh my gosh, this is horrible. It's not the case. They do have a stamping press and have had one since the beginning, but still, these shorters, man, they're desperate. They are getting really desperate.
Yeah. I mean, because even England and the EU consider the assembled cars to be Europe assembled. They count for the tax.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't get it, but I think Tesla's point is like, hey, these are completely assembled here in China. I don't. It's incredible what they're doing. I think that if insider trading is illegal, I think that what they're doing with the falsehoods should also be illegal. I don't mind the idea of shorting stock. Like, hey, I think that some random clothing company is going to go out of business, and I trade to that. But for me to then go out and
actually set fire to the clothing company.
Well, I mean, even if I point out, I say that it looks like they don't have their supply chain intact, and here's my research, that's fine. But if I say, oh, these guys they're not stylish anymore, blah blah blah, they can't make their own clothes, and like they have a factory, you see clothes coming out, I should be liable for that libel.
Yep. I agree. But as these guys get more desperate and more of them get squeezed out, hopefully this stuff will start to subside.
Billions of dollars over the last couple of weeks.
There is, yeah. So
incredible amount of money.
We shall see. Speaking of the European Union, that leads us to our next story. We touched on this last week about the Ionity chargers versus Tesla chargers and the price difference. And a nice little chart was put out here that we're sharing on screen. that's showing the different prices in the Eurozone and then broken down into individual country, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Poland, Norway, Sweden, so forth. Again, huge increases over the Tesla Supercharger price, but I will caution you that Tesla has always said that the Supercharger network is not a profit-making venture. It is basically just a push on the costs to keep them opening and keep them maintained, but it's basically not a profit center. These are designed for the use of Tesla owners to help travel between multiple cities, make it easier, and that's why they have facilitated this network and continue to expand it. And obviously, Ionity is a different type of spec. They're looking for profit and trying to keep the prices, even if they are subsidized from some different automotive manufacturers. They are looking to make a profit.
Now, what's amazing here is that none of their competition has done this. Their competition is actually a lot closer to the Tesla pricing. Not quite Tesla pricing because they do need to keep the lights on. And so this is obviously a business decision that wasn't based on externalities. They chose to do this. And then I heard, I didn't see this, but I heard, I'm hoping you know more about it, that he posed as a customer and tried to AstroTurf and say that this is a good thing. And then people found out it was him, and then he was embarrassed, the CEO.
Oh, I did not hear that. That would be embarrassing.
Okay, so allegedly, because we haven't seen this to confirm it, but this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I'm hearing people upset about. I want to go and find this and see, because if he hasn't taken it down already, because that is incredible.
Yeah.
This is the same guy who was complaining about a supercharger that was flooded, right? And then everybody responded with pictures of flooded Ionity chargers.
Kind of backfired, didn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of something backfiring or explosions, Casey's got a story about some extra bang for the buck in Germany.
Yes. A little present from our past here in North America to Germany. The Nazis, of course, but not the current Germans. While they were waging war against us, we lashed back. So 187 pounds of World War II era ammunition was found at Gigafactory 4, and that will need to be removed before they can continue clearing the trees and before they can start construction.
Exactly. 25 different unexploded ordnances found, bombs, yes, laying in the ground. And Germany has Berlin, certain areas of Germany have a rule that whenever new construction starts on a site, the first thing is a bomb sweep. Yes. Because there are so many bombs that were not cleaned up after World War II that to be safe so everyone can work in a harm-free environment, you have to do a scan of the ground before you build any new building in a number of different areas in Germany. So obviously, smart thing to be doing. If your particular town was used as a big target during World War II, many bombs not completely dismantled, or certainly the bomb could be active. It may not be, but you've got to remove them regardless.
Safe it and remove it. Yep. So this covers almost 60 hectares of land, and there are 220 bomb craters. So just because they are aware of 25 doesn't mean they won't find more. Like, say they move a shell and now there's more.
Right.
And they're going to remove even the bullets, at least the ones made of lead anyway. They're going to remove them as well, because lead leaching into the environment isn't any good.
Nope. So makes sense. We'll see if there's any update on this throughout the weeks going forward. But that is all part of the plan. This certainly was time that was allotted for when they started construction of the plant. And these are some of the things that are going to add on to the timetable, different than, say, China's location. So there's going to be some of these differences that go on in this factory build. Next story is something that we've heard before called the Tesla effect. And Bloomberg put out an article where they were talking about electric vehicles as a whole recently not doing as well as they did in a previous year. So expansion of EVs on the market has certainly happened. More and more models are coming into play and can be purchased. But Bloomberg's article here was talking about how the uptake of those vehicles, the purchase of those vehicles, has not been as high as expected. In fact, for a number of different brands, it's a lower amount. They weren't expecting the softening demand for EVs. And the Bloomberg article again says there is one exception to this rule, and that is Tesla. Tesla has been killing it. They've been pushing the Model 3 everywhere. Its uptake is incredible. It's selling unbelievably well. And they're saying, is this part of the problem for others? Is that Tesla has a mature model that is so good in all the other categories that when you start comparing apples to apples, when you're making your purchase decision, there really is no decision, because Tesla is so far over into the column of it has everything I want, the price, the range, the abilities, they're all there. And with these other cars, they're missing, but these other cars are charging the same price. Why on earth would I buy the sub car when I could buy the Tesla for getting all the boxes checked? So
I disagree with that, because there's so many compelling other vehicles out there. Like I just saw was it not a Hyundai? Some car. It was like 20,000 after tax credits. It had a decent range. The Mini. I don't think it's that the cars aren't any good. I think it's that every time you go to look at it, it's in the back. It's not charging. We were going to charge it tomorrow. You can't take a test drive on a car with flat tires, so no battery.
Yep, or it doesn't exist at the dealership at all.
Or it doesn't exist at all. Like the mayor up there who went to Infinity and bought a Model 3. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's the fault of the consumer. I think it's literally between the manufacturers and the dealer networks. It's not that they aren't making anything compelling. It might be too high priced, too much fuel consumption, or the availability is not there. But it's not that the cars aren't any good, because if you're into wood and luxury and switches, there's like 6 luxury competitions, and then on the cheaper side, there's Kia, there's Hyundai, there's Volkswagen. There's a lot out there, but it's just when Elon said that a rising tide lifts all boats, and he started flooding the channel, he didn't think that they would drill holes in the bottom of their boats.
Sabotage themselves, yeah. And it's interesting that 2020 was always the year that was pushed out there as to this is when EVs would start to really flood the market. There would be more and more available, more and more options, more and more sales. And we're going to start living that as we've entered or about to enter in the second month of 2020, as these models are starting to come through, and we'll start to see, is that really the case? Are there going to be? Obviously, it is for Tesla. Tesla is doing gangbusters, but it's these others that are have been involved in the market for a while. In some cases, the Bolt, the Leaf. You've got other incumbents like the Hyundai, now the Kona, the Niro, the Ionic, all good cars in their own rights. It's whether or not, when you're comparing apples to apples, what the consumer picks. So we're going to be watching this story as time goes along and see the sales as the quarters roll along here in 2020 and see if that's the case. What do you think out there? Do you think that when you compare apples to apples, is there a really big gap between Tesla and all the other manufacturers? We'd love to hear from you. Send us a note in the YouTube feed, or right through our Twitter or Facebook feed as well. And since you're looking at YouTube feed, please, if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. And that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, so one other thing that the Bloomberg touched on, they said there will be 120 EVs by 2025. And then I heard by 2030 there should be 400 models that are, or at least on the drawing board. I don't know if they'll all actually make it over 10 years.
Will they make it?
Yeah.
And that will depend on how sales go in 2020 and 2021, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Next, political ad hit the airwaves recently. And Casey's got that story since it's in his neck of the woods.
It is in my neck of the woods. So Mr. Andrew Yang is a Democratic Party candidate, and he's got a campaign ad that runs 30 seconds, so it's ready for TV. It's got a lot of Tesla in it. For one, most of the video is him driving his Tesla or doing Autopilot. I think his message was about automation and jobs, but since we were looking at the Tesla angle, like he's in one, and then there's at least 3 or 4 others throughout various shots, and that was pretty unique to see.
It was. It's a political commercial that takes place in his Model X as he's driving around the city talking about different points. But I don't know. That's interesting that he chose to do the ad in his X.
Yeah.
And of course, his last point basically was, and if you don't think automation is coming to the vehicle market, take a look at this. And basically, he's just showing the front view of the Model X, saying that that these mapping abilities, these automations, are already here for people that don't believe it's coming.
Yeah, so he shows it doing a navigation on Autopilot. It changes lanes. He shows it at the end. He's pulling into what looks like his driveway. It's somebody's driveway anyway. He's pulling in, but it's a view of regular Summon. You see the car doing the steering wheel, staying straight. It's a view from the inside of a standard Summon. It drove that point home because like you could tell there's nobody in the car and it's driving itself.
Yeah, exactly. No one's behind the wheel. It's doing it itself. So interesting. We'll see if Andrew continues along. Obviously, there's a number of Democrats running for the job to face Donald Trump, and it'll be interesting to see if Andrew makes it to the next round. Go ahead.
I've got a story that's on our list. So GM is saying that they're going to have the ability to use on their Super Cruise where you flick the turn signal and it will change lanes by next year. And I was talking to my coworker today, and I was like, my 2016 Model S did that years ago. And he's like, yeah, but does it look first? I said, yeah, it looks first. And that was the thing about the Cadillac, is that they're going to use their radar. They didn't mention specifically they're going to add more cameras or more LiDAR units to actually cover the rear. So it's going to probably just use the cross-traffic system they already have. And you don't have to touch the wheel because they're watching your face.
Right. And of course, Super Cruise can only be used on certain roads, ones that have been completely GPS mapped, and they know exactly that there's no issues on those roads. So
GPS and LiDAR scan too.
That's right. So it's a different system because they're assured themselves that the roads you're on have been well covered and well mapped, and they know exactly where you are in the lanes. Unlike Tesla, where you can drive it anywhere. But we've got some more GM stuff coming up on our sister show, What Drives Us. We'll be talking about that in about an hour or so, a little bit less than an hour. And you can join us on that show to talk about the other EVs that are out there.
Yeah. So one last point that we brought up in our conversation was I was like, oh, they only have 5 million miles of Super Cruise. And he was impressed. He's like, oh, they did all that in one car. And then we did the math, and it would take, at 60 miles an hour, it would take 9 years to accomplish that. And I said, no, that's for the fleet. That's all the people using it. And I pointed out how many millions, and now Autopilot now is at 3 billion miles. See, I brought it back to Tesla. Is now at 3 billion miles of Autopilot activation. Wow.
That's a huge amount. A huge amount of data to be able to surf through and figure out where the problems are and what can be addressed as time goes along. So the data is where it's at for sure.
Yeah, it's going up every day. So every time that they deliver 10,000 cars, that's that many more cars that can do it.
Exactly. Our next little story is about some Tesla modifications that this particular gentleman has done on his Model 3. Just thought it was just spectacular photos, so I thought I'd share it. What we've got here is a Model 3 that's decked out in electric blue. And
Chrome.
this is a wrap, obviously, but this chromed Model 3 I thought just looks spectacular in the sun. Talk about an attention getter. This was in Europe. Obviously, you can tell by the license plates. But apparently, this particular Model 3 is for rent. So you can rent it while you're on your European trip and pick one up to show off, because you are definitely going to get some head turns in this vehicle. But I just thought I'd share a quick few photos. It was I thought it was a very unique looking car, and may not be your taste, but man, this is some eye candy for sure.
I love the color, but I would hate to be behind it on sunrise or sunset.
Absolutely, you'd be kind of blinded depending on the way the sun is shining. Absolutely. Well, what do we got next? Coming up in Miami, Florida, on the Saturday the 8th, I believe it is, there's going to be an event called EVs Tea in Miami, and it is billed to be the largest East Coast meetup of Teslas ever. This group, Evanix, and a number of different sponsors have put this together. They're going to have a whole bunch of speakers. It's going to be held at basically the Innovation District of Miami. And it's going to be down there. It's near a Supercharger, which is good if you're going to have a lot of Teslas together. Some of them are going to be required to refuel, I'm sure. But it's an interesting event with speakers and such that you can sign up with. Now, we'll put in the notes of the show, there will be a link that you can click on and go sign up. Obviously, they'd like to get a head count of who they could expect or what kind of numbers they could expect. But if you're interested in Tesla, you don't have to own one. If you're just interested in seeing them or talking to owners, this is going to be a great opportunity for you if you're in the southeast corner of the U.S. coming up here in February.
I'm on the east of the U.S.
You're just Middle East. You're not.
Yes.
You're not southeast.
I'm no longer southeast. So what used to be a relatively easy drive is now a 15-hour and 50-minute drive with no supercharging.
Yeah, that's a bit of a long drive to go to a meet, I'm sure.
I don't think I'll be able to convince my wife that that's going to be fun.
Very good. So, trying to stop the sharing here. Let's try this. There we go.
Maybe if it's her idea.
You can finagle that. Go for it. Go for it, Casey. Next, we had a report that Elon and Jay Leno were spotted driving around the design studio in Hawthorne, California recently. That is because it's rumored that Jay is filming an episode of his Jay Leno's Garage, where he debuts many cars. He goes through the details of new builds, old builds, custom builds. Good show if you haven't watched it previously. It's a car guy show that touches on many aspects of being a fan of automobiles. And Jay has been to the design studio previously. He actually met up with Hans, and they took a look. Franz, and they took a look at the new supercar coming from Tesla, the second generation Roadster. And at that time, the Model 3 as well. So apparently Elon is in this episode, and the Cybertruck is making a debut, as well as on hand was the Tesla Semi. So I don't know how much they'll go into each of the vehicles, but keep your eye open for a new web episode from Jay Leno's Garage. There will be one concerning Tesla, we would suspect, in the near future.
Yeah, there was the video of this. Elon waves at somebody who's looking at him going down the road, and I noticed that there was something in between. It was on the B pillar, and I don't know what it was.
You mean like a camera mount? You noticed?
Yeah, I don't know if it was like a GoPro or if it was part of the prototype. Like they've been working on it.
Now we do have this one photo from our Twitter feed, which I can hopefully share.
You're already sharing.
I'm sharing. Okay. So there's Elon in the shades in the passenger seat. But is it behind this picture
Yeah, it'd
or
be just
so
past his
down
right
by
shoulder.
the? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the other picture here was right out on, I guess that's Cranshaw or close to Cranshaw at SpaceX. And of course, you can see the SpaceX Falcon 9 demonstration rocket in the background.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was one of the first ones to land, if not the first, right?
I don't know what order that would be. I know that when I was there, that was there to get your picture in front of. So actually down at the corner, there's plexiglass all around the sidewalk. So you can get in real close to the rocket and get a few photographs of yourself standing beside a Falcon 9.
Nice.
Absolutely. Our last story of the day is a new application that was spotted that runs either as an app or as a website. It's called Tesla Test Ride. And of course, that's the URL, teslatestride.com. You can go to. And what this app does is that if you are so over the moon with your Tesla vehicle and you want to share your knowledge with others who have interest, you can post your vehicle as to where you are, what area of the country, what city, and offer some test rides if you wish, and inform others about the vehicle and how it operates and answer questions from people that don't know or wish to know about the vehicle themselves. If maybe they're starting to do some shopping and they would like to hear from some owners as to how the vehicle operates, how long they've had it, how it operates in their region, all those type of questions are available to be answered by actual owners. So you as an owner can sign up and indicate the days and times of the day that you're available to speak to somebody or provide possible test ride or even test drive. And also, if you don't own a Tesla and you're looking to get some of those answers, you can look up who's around your local area and communicate with them, ask them questions, get some of your things cleared up before you move on to purchasing. So it's a great little tool that you can use to communicate back and forth between people that are about to be owners or wish to be owners with actual owners who have the experience of owning these vehicles and driving them for a period of time.
Sounds like what we do all the time.
Sounds like what we do. Yeah, exactly. So this allows you just to have that extra reach out. And I actually loaded up the web page, took a look around, and sure enough, there's a few people in my area that are already signed up on it. So it's available and operating right now. Check it out just to see who's in your area that has posted their Tesla as someone that's an expert and can provide you with some answers. And that
my way too.
They've got some in your area.
Yeah, a bunch of Model 3s, a couple of Model S's. I might sign up for it. We'll see.
Very good, very good. So with that, that about wraps up what we had for today. Man, what a whirlwind as we're just taking in stories at the last minute because of the earnings call. But and in case I didn't even introduce you at the beginning, we were so gung-ho to get into it, we didn't even do the intro. But certainly we are going to let you speak your piece here at the end. Any shout-outs for you, Casey?
Yeah, certainly. Just released a supercharger review of the Arlington Urban Supercharger, and take a look at it. It's one of my shorter ones. It's at youtube.com/Casey Green, KACEYGREEN. And we've got a lot more coming, so take a look at that.
Exactly. And I watched the Arlington one already,
Yeah.
and it was interesting to find that this was kind of an urban type supercharger that was, you said it went dark quickly, like it was closed at 10 p.m. or something along that line. That basically there was nothing open around it.
No.
after a short time in the evening, and that's why you had to give it a little bit of a subpar score.
I did. That combined with they didn't have a grace period for the charging of the parking garage, so it's like 0 to 1 hour was $6, and then the weekends were $6.95. It was like apparently one of the locals contacted me. He said that it's not a very reliable station, so I would be livid if I got there, spent my $7, and then couldn't charge, and then had to get out and still was out $7.
Yep, I would be livid myself if that was the case. Absolutely.
Thankfully, it worked when we showed up. Otherwise, it would have got a failing grade.
Well, I will again plug us. If you are at this point and you haven't given us a thumbs up, hey, what are you waiting for? It's free. Just click on that button. Give us a thumbs up. That helps us get in eyes of new people that are looking for Tesla topics. Help us do that. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And if you ring the bell, you'll be notified whenever an episode goes live. Also, we would certainly like to thank Lee Moon, who provides our theme music that we use at the start and the end of the show. And we would also like to thank you, the viewer, for coming and enjoying our show today, watching it whatever time it is, whether you've watched it during the premiere or at some other point. We thank you for your patronage, and certainly wish that you like what you see and will recommend us and come back for more next week. So with that, we would like to say see you next week. Everyone be good, and we will see you and find out what's going on in Tesla life next week. All right? Thanks, guys. Everyone have yourselves a good week.